Who hasn't heard of Flappy Bird? Nearly all of you must have played it at some point, and it was so popular that its developer earned $50,000 every day. But the very game turned his life upside down, to the point where he started receiving death threats. Why, one might wonder? Let's unearth the story in today's video. The game was developed by Vietnamese developer Dong Nguyen. As a child, he was quite fond of video games, such as Super Mario Bros, and had been coding since the age of 16. At 19, when he was learning programming, he received an internship at the gaming company Punch Entertainment. In 2005, he launched his game development company, which he named .Gears. He had already realized the enormous potential of the mobile game industry, as people always carry smartphones with them and could play on them to kill the time. But he also felt that contemporary games were too complex and demanded player focus and time to learn how to play. That's when he decided to create games that were simple yet difficult, something that people would enjoy playing, and carried a retro art style. Before Flappy Birds, he created plenty of games, such as Ninja's Assault, Shuriken Block, Droplet Shuffle, and Smashing Kitty. The idea of Flappy Birds took off from the game Angry Birds, which Dong felt was far too complex. So he designed Flappy Bird in just 2 to 3 days. It starred a bird named Phoebe, incidentally borrowed from a 2012 cancelled platformer game. For the gameplay, he took inspiration from a table tennis ball and the way people try to keep it bouncing on a paddle. As for the art style, he relied on Nintendo classics since everyone could relate to them, and he loved the retro pixelated look. A preliminary version was found to be too easy, so he set out to make it more challenging. Since the game had little content, he could focus entirely on developing gameplay. The idea was to release it as free-to-play and generate revenue from in-game advertisements. On May 24, 2013, the game was officially released for iOS, but it did not take off, as seen on Google Trends. It remained largely unpopular until December of that year. It had some players, but was not gaining any traction. A Reddit user around the time had included it among a list of difficult games, and a month later, another had posted urging players to try out the game. Perhaps that was the turning point. PewDiePie might have seen these posts, and he created a video on his channel, and the gameplay he recorded went viral, which led to massive downloads. This was around January 2014, when the game was released for Android as well. Soon, everyone was playing it. By the end of the month, it had become the most downloaded game on the iOS App Store and Google Play Store, whether in the US, China, or the UK, and it was making $50,000 a day. Before long, it had reached 50 million downloads, so the game turned out to be a stupendous success, without any marketing efforts from the developer's side. He did not even showcase it on his own website, but now it was being hailed as the next Angry Birds. But then something weird happens on February 8, 2014. Its developer announces in a tweet that within 22 hours, the game will be removed across all app stores without citing any reason. But yeah, it read, "I cannot take this anymore." It sounded as if he was quite upset, but what exactly was going on? Many felt he was facing a lawsuit from Nintendo since the artwork closely resembled their Super Mario games. But he clarified in further tweets that it was nothing of the sort and that it was a personal decision. Even Nintendo came forward to declare that they don't have any sort of problems with the game. Then people speculated that it might be due to the internet laws recently enforced by Vietnam's authorities, but legal experts from the region stated that that was not the case. On February 28th, the developer released a video saying he took down Flappy Birds because, although it was his biggest success, the game had apparently destroyed his simple life. So what exactly had gone wrong? Well, the quick rise to popularity was mainly to blame. Due to the success of Flappy Bird, Dong Nguyen had a meteoric rise to fame. Within a few months, his followers on Twitter had crossed 100,000. Now, it's one thing if the internet loves you, but with this game, that wasn't the case. To begin with, it attracted a lot of negative reviews. Every aspect of the game, its graphics, movement, and gameplay, met with bitter criticism. IGN remarked that the gameplay lacked any depth, despite being addictive. Kotaku contested that the game had plagiarized the legendary Super Mario graphics. Later, controversies began to surface. For instance, when Dong was asked what might have contributed to the craze, he simply said it was pure luck. However, the online marketer Carter Thomas accused Dong of using online bots to improve its ranking in app stores. Dong replied that if that were the case, Apple would have removed the game on its own. Then, the game was compared with another very similar French game, Pew Pew vs Cactus. It too had players tapping their screens to flap about a tiny yellow bird, navigating it around cacti cacti. And this was 2 years prior to Flappy Bird. The French developer questioning the striking resemblance, and soon enough a large number of newspapers were reporting Flappy Bird to be nothing more than a clone. Dong, however, stated he had never encountered its French twin and had conceived Flappy Bird solely from imagination. So, on one end, people were trashing his game, even going on to call it a rip-off, with gameplay borrowed from Pew Pew vs. Cactus and artistry and sounds from Super Mario. Moreover, the game had not gone down particularly well with its players, with many reporting that they had become addicts and blaming the developer for it. Dong started receiving flame mail from teachers and parents, holding the game responsible for children faring badly in school. Although it was their parents' duty to look at the way they raise their children, we tend to blame others for our own problems. Some even said the game had caused them to lose their jobs, while others broke their phones. For someone who comes from a humble village near Hanoi in Vietnam, this all proved to be a little too much. It had reached a threshold where he decided to remove the game altogether. He believed that removing the game would put a stop to all the madness. However, it was not to be. There was a tremendous outcry, with fans pouring in to say how seriously addicted they were. Young Dong even started receiving death threats. He can only imagine how this might have wrecked his peace of mind. Maybe that's why he went on to describe the game as his biggest success, but a nemesis to his otherwise simple life. On the other hand, people were dying to play the game. In the last few hours, everyone tried to download it to save a copy. Even phones that carry the game went up on eBay for thousands of dollars, although such listings were soon pulled down, as one needs to perform a factory reset in order to retail a phone on eBay. Taking advantage of the situation, other developers began making copycats, such as Flappy Bee, Flappy Plane, Splashy Fish, Smarkle Flyer, Fly Birdie, and Flappy Bird Flyer, among countless others. At one point, 60 new clones appeared every day in the app stores. Some of these even carried malware, so Google and Apple began to reject them. Following the uproar, people began clamoring for a return. In March 2014, Dong stated in an interview that the game could be published with added restrictions, such as reminding players to take a break. On March 19th, he responded to a tweet saying that the game would be re-released but not anytime soon. On May 15th, he told CNBC the game would come back by August with multiplayer options and less addictive gameplay. It did resurface in August, but not like everyone wanted. It was a revised version, launched exclusively for the Amazon App Store and Amazon Fire TV, titled Flappy Bird's Family. It supported multiplayer and included additional obstacles. In the following years, the game acquired a legacy. Coding schools and game development courses adopted this game to train students how to build their own, since it is astoundingly simple and yet highly addictive. When ChatGPT came up online, people tried to write the code for the game, and such videos received millions of views online. Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, often called the father of video games, exclaimed that Flappy Bird was much like his original classic, Pong. Simple, yet satisfying. In the Lollipop version of Android, they put in an altered version of Flappy Bird, which was named L-Land. Here, players controlled a flying android, while the pipes were replaced by lollies. The Marshmallow update contained an improved version titled M-Land, where up to 6 players could join in on the play. On New Year's Eve 2014, Google honored Flappy Bird with a doodle for being one of the most searched phenomena of the year. Flappy Tom, a minigame in the My Talking Tom saga, was also inspired by it. In 2016, someone ingested the code for Flappy Bird in Super Mario World. This goes on to show how huge it had become on its own accord. Only its creator didn't enjoy the limelight. I found the story quite similar to Notch's, but in the case of Minecraft, Microsoft at least bought the rights and kept it in circulation. But the game is long over for Flappy Bird. Moving on, Dong created other games like Swing Copters and its subsequent sequel, which features similar gameplay to Flappy Bird. In 2017, he released Ninja Spinky Challenges and later Boop in 2002. They are a team of 5 now and are probably working on their next game. Admittedly, Dong keeps away from the public eye, although he did make an appearance at the 2017 RovioCon and has agreed to interviews now and then. He seems to prefer anonymity. Some anticipate that the original game will be released in 2023, which would mark the 10th year of its release. But for now, his website doesn't mention anything of the sort. All it says is that the game was intended for a few minutes of play and not hours. The story of the developer Notch is rather similar. To watch, click the video on the left, and for the rise and fall of Angry Birds, click the video on the right. See you in the next video. Till then, adios.